Good evening, everybody. This is The Opinion Guy. I am Charles Guarria, broadcasting just minutes away from the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach, in Daytona Beach, Florida. And we have the full crew for news tonight. We tried to get that together last week. We had technical difficulties. And if you are a regular viewer of the show, you know we had technical difficulties all week. It was happening with a lot of guests and with me, and we hopefully will be in better behavior with our internet service providers and not have any technical difficulty. I'm going to have a technical difficulty talking, apparently, and I'm trying to do that for a living. So those two things don't work out very well. All righty, let's get on with the show and forget about last week's tech difficulties. Without further ado, I am going to bring to you Joe Hannoush, Michael Vass, and John Navarra. What's up, guys?
Hey.
All right. So Joe is the person who had the technical difficulties last week, and we tried to get him on in the worst way. We tried our hardest, but we weren't able to do it. What was the issue there, Joe?
I had to change the background. That was the issue. No, it was. I think the app was wrong or not working anymore. So I'm on the browser instead of the app. So I'm more direct with you guys now. So I hope everything is better. I did lose the background, but I hope everything else is good.
Well, there's got to be a way to get that background back on there. You know what I mean? Because everybody, like Michael, you're using the stream, you're using the same link that Joe is, and you got your background. So there must be a way to put that in there if you just kind of like Googled or something like that how to do it.
You know? Well, I'm also using a computer as opposed to a phone, so there may be some different.
That could be the difference. Yeah, but it looks great. Every now and then, just stand up so we can see like the Hannoush. Like I know Joe's coming. See, look at that.
Whoa. See,
yeah, that was cool.
Get that on the app.
That was neat, man. How did you do that?
I have no idea.
It's very delightful, by the way.
I don't know.
You're celebrating America's 250th.
There we go. That's what I'm celebrating. 420. Yes.
That was awesome. How the heck did that happen? I love it. What's going on with you, John?
Well, I did notice when I was writing a pass for a student what infamous day this is, and that wasn't too good.
What is infamous birthday? Wait, don't say anything. Oh, it's Hitler's birthday.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
That too. Okay.
What was it? Oh, 420. Oh, that's yeah. Funny. And it's also Donna's birthday, by the way.
Oh, happy birthday, Donna.
Yeah.
I will let her know that you guys said that. Yep.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful dinner in New Smyrna Beach over the weekend. I don't remember the name of the place. Voo something or other. Just put in Voo New Smyrna Beach. Everybody lives in Volusia. It was good.
There's some nice places to eat in New Smyrna Beach. They got a beautiful town down there for sure.
Well, you know what? That's a great way for me to plug a show that I'm going to have coming up in the next few weeks. There is a gentleman named Ben Ionata who writes a column just on New Smyrna Beach. It's called New Smyrna Beat. And we're going to actually go over what are some of the best restaurants as a part of his appearance on the show. So that'll be awesome. So yes, everybody stick around for that one. New Smyrna Beach is a great place to visit. I would actually say it's better than Daytona Beach. John might want to challenge me on that since he's running to be on the Daytona Beach City Commission. But actually, did I say in the next couple of weeks? Oh, wait. Yeah, Ben's going to be on next month. Yeah, we rescheduled for next month because he had an assignment. He's a reporter as well. All right. Anyway, so that'll be a great show. And New Smyrna Beach is just a little bit of ways from Daytona Beach. And I think, so much nicer. So we are going to kick off the show tonight speaking a little bit. How about you, Mike? What's going on with you in the last week? I didn't want to leave you out. Sorry about that.
No, you really weren't. It's the usual stuff. Doing some interviews with some candidates, had a nut job. Well, that isn't fair. A progressive socialist did an interview with him. That was kind of unique.
Vega.
Yeah, Jose Vega, who's in person. He's a nice person. I've actually met him in person. He's a nice guy. He's a very young kid, 27. Young.
Oh, really?
Yeah, real young. And he has been sucked in by the socialism. It probably didn't hurt that he was sucked into a 10-day sponsored trip to China, sponsored by the Chinese Communist Party. And so he's like, socialism is great. I was there, and everywhere the government told me to go looked wonderful, and everyone was happy. I'm like, yeah, because it's a government-sponsored trip. You have no idea about the reality.
Did they take him by the Uyghur camps by any chance?
No, he's like, I even met some of the Uyghurs. It's not like what we.
No, they're great.
Even though the rest of the world has confirmed that the Uyghurs have been disappearing and put into concentration camps, it's not true because the CCP, on their sponsored 10-day trip, introduced me to a bunch of Uyghurs. Yeah, okay. Tell the American that everything's great, or I shoot you in the head. I mean, come on.
I actually was listening to some of that. I forgot his first name. You said Jose. What?
Vega.
Where is he running? Just so the folks know, where is he running? Where's another socialist is trying to make their mark in New York City? I'm shocked. But where is he running exactly?
He's running for the New York 15th. That's actually my congressional district here in the Bronx.
Oh, Bronx. Okay.
Up against he's on the Democrat line, and he'll be going into a primary with Richie Torres, who's the incumbent, who's useless, absolutely useless. But I'd rather have a useless yes man than a communist socialist. Even though he's a nice young kid, I'd rather have Richie Torres and I actually don't want either of them because they're both useless. But he's going for the New York. That's the left side of the New York 15 race. And I actually know the guy who's running on the right side, conservative ticket. That's Gonzalo Duran. So I know them all.
Well, tell them both to come on my show. Tell them that this is a great show to be on, and they should come on. And after all, we have a pretty strong Florida following as well, and there's so many snowbirds that they're going to want to reach into this territory. This is almost like another county for New York.
Almost. I don't know about the Bronx, but Manhattan definitely. But I'll tell them to get in touch with you. Absolutely.
Tell them to get in touch. Spread the word.
I got a question for Michael, though. I know New York does fusion voting. When you say conservative, is that the Conservative Party, or is he running as a Republican?
No, actually both. He's a conservative, and he has been endorsed by the Republican Party, but he isn't conservative in the Conservative Party line he got. But and that's what we call fusion voting, is you can be on multiple lines. So he was endorsed by the Republican, so he's on. You'll see his name under Republican. You'll see his name under Conservative Party. Jose Vega will be under the Democrat, and probably Independent. Richie Torres will be under Democrat and Working Families. So some of the approved secondary parties, there's only two of them. So are there, and then the main parties,
So if they're running in a primary, in the Democrat primary, if I forget the names for which parties, but if one of them loses the Democrat primary, will they still be on the other minor party?
Yes.
In the general?
If, as an example, Jose Vega goes after Richie Torres is going to stomp him in the Democrat, which means that Jose will lose. He cannot go on to the Democrat line. But he's also trying to get the independent line. So he would still, if he gets the signatures, he'll still be able to show up on the ballot as an independent, but that would be the only time his name will show up. So he'll have only one slot, and Richie Torres would have two, and Gonzalo Duran will have two.
Okay.
Jose will only have one.
Yeah.
This has got me thinking. This has got me thinking, John. In New York, you can they're obviously nonpartisan, but where you're running right now is nonpartisan, right? You can't say, because you're at a municipal level, going for a city commission in Daytona Beach, so you can't actually say if you're a Democrat or a Republican on when you're running. Hey, we know what you are here.
Like on my shirt, the ruling is that I can only say, let's see, you gotta get it right here. Paid by me. Let's see,
Usually the rules
paid by
the campaign.
John Navarra for Daytona Beach Commission Zone 1.
Right.
Okay.
So I can't say party on the shirt because that's so you can't run by party, and you can't have party on your advertising if it's a nonpartisan race, and that's probably the same all over the country. Imagine
if they're nonpartisan. I don't know.
If you're not,
nonpartisan race.
If you're an independent, then you're an independent. If your party recognized, then you can put the party on. Otherwise, it's a misrepresentation. So, I mean, that's standard across the nation.
And Joe, because you're running at the state level, you can freely say
right. So
on
you
all
just
your
say
advertisements that you're a libertarian,
and that's it. So you say you're running for that race. Thing.
Yeah, not only can I do that, but I have to do that. If it's a partisan race, you have to have your party on there.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man. That's like politics 101 right there. I love it. All righty.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kick off the show.
Race, you have to say
that again.
Oh, in my last race, I had to say what party I represented in my flyers and on my advertising, because that's the law. Like Joe, he has to say Libertarian Party, because I imagine that's what you were running under. And so when you run under a party in a partisan race, you have to say you can't misrepresent. So it has to be on your advertising. That way everyone can see it. That way that if you lied, it's like it's on your flyer. I mean, you can't say something different than on your flyer or shirt or something.
And for folks who don't know, Joe and John ran against each other. Was it last year? Last year, and they almost came.
Yeah, that's last.
They didn't like each other. They were like, there was almost fisticuffs in their debate. It got a little nasty, man.
No, we got along.
Joe, a little different view. Keep the government out of it.
There we go. Get government out of it.
Get the government out of it.
That was my campaign slogan.
Yeah,
Keep government out of it.
People remembered that line. Keep the government out of it. Joe had his stock answer.
It was effective.
Any question?
It was effective.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, folks. So maybe we'll talk about the war for a little bit, but not in the sense of like negotiations and and Trump's going to end civilization and all that kind of stuff, because you can get that on CNN and you can get that on Fox News. But what you're going to get here is the question of what is a win for the U.S. in the Iran war, also known as Epic Fury. So like when it's all said and done, what would you, if you consider it a win, or what do you think the president of the United States would consider a win? Actually, let's go with what you would think it's would consider it a win. And Joe, we're going to start with you, since you had the tech difficulties, so you weren't able to speak at all. We'll kick it off with you. And what do you think? I know that you don't think we should be there at all, so there is no win for you. And you can elaborate on that. What do you think Trump would walk? What's Trump's mission accomplished moment? You could do both of those, so we know where you're going on the first one.
You stole it, but you know me way too well, because you knew exactly what I was going to say.
Yes.
So I am glad that you actually asked it two separate ways, because you know how I am about war in general and winners in war. There is not. So as far as like what Trump in his quote unquote mission accomplished kind of line. Frankly, Trump has already said this. He said this like 15 years ago to Obama in a tweet. He said, "Declare victory and get out." I think that would be a win for Trump. Is just declare it. Just say we won, and then get out. Say, "Oh, we solved it. It's good. We did it. Whatever this thing is, and things are better now. We won, and we're done."
Okay. All right. Let's go around the horn. Mike, what do you think?
That's completely wrong. And there are actually criteria, and they're important, because if this is done poorly, if we actually saw something like that, we'll be back in this war within 5 to 10 years. So it actually matters that we have to have concrete, real, substantive success. What's victory? The Strait of Hormuz is reopened. The Ayatollah is removed from office, whether either directly by the United States forcing him out or by the Iranian people rising up and deposing him. But the Ayatollah has to be gone. The IRGC have to be gone. There can't be the capability of nuclear weapons being made, and the ballistic missiles research and development must be stopped, must be completely crushed. And if we are very, very lucky, Donald Trump will be bombing the bridges and the power plants, which lead to the industrial zones that make their military capabilities possible, which fuels global terrorism. And yes, because if you take out industrial power plants, you take out industrial bridges, that does bring any current first or second world nation into the 1800s, wipe out their civilization, which is actually what Trump has said, what it actually means. And if we don't go by the fear mongering of the mainstream media, they have a goal in mind. They want everyone to vote Democrat. So they don't mind fear mongering you and lying and misconstruing very clear statements, very clear military objectives. Can we get those targets as a win? Absolutely. Because we have a strong president who has a strong will. Will we? That's a different question.
All right. So how about you, John? What's a win for the United States if you think we should be going for the win, or if you maybe side more with Joe's side of it and give us your opinion on what Donald Trump thinks a win would be?
Okay. Well, I think a win would be for the United States that Iran either would have no nuclear capability whatsoever, and the only other option that the U.S. would find to win is if there was, and you could trust it, that a body that we would trust would be able to inspect all the time. But that would be a lot of trust. But removing the weapons of mass destruction would be and they've spoken a lot about that. That might be kind of difficult. But removing the weapons capability would be something that the U.S. would be very comfortable with. And that seems to be the goal of this war. The thing is, can it be achieved just by bombing the country? And that's it. That's what it might come down to, because you might not be able to get this removed with just bombing the country. That might not be enough. But we'll see. If Trump is able to pull this off with just bombing the country, he pulls off something, pretty big. But so far he hasn't. And Iran has not backed down. But in time, we don't know. But I think that the win for the U.S. would be getting rid of that, the nuclear capability. The U.S. would like a friendly power to be in, but so far, most of the day, the U.S. didn't like him. The Shah, we liked him until, we wondered why he was tear gassing his people. And then for the Ayatollah, he definitely was opposed to the U.S. So we're like 0 for 3 in people.
No.
That,
hold on.
So it's.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
I'm listening.
That's why I see a win. That's how I see a win. But I don't see either. We like the Shah, but then again, he was oppressive to the people, and the people revolted against him. The U.S. was a very good friend of his, but we gave him all kinds of weapons and stuff. But he didn't get along. And two, we had a mix of some people in Iran who wanted modern development, and a lot of people who wanted a very religious country. And there was a divide between the two. And then the religious took over in their country.
Okay. So, Mike, you had a response to that, but then I got follow-up questions for you. So first respond to John while it's fresh.
The U.S. isn't looking for a friend. We're looking for an end to fanatical, zealot, theocratic rule. In other words, we don't want the terrorists in charge anymore. That's the answer. And literally, Trump has made that very clear. The world has made that very clear because they support us in this. The entire world is supporting in this. They want us to win. They want this to happen. So, and that's one of the key things. We're not trying to build, we're not nation building. We're not trying to make puppets. We're trying to get rid of terrorism, which makes the world more stable, which makes oil prices cheaper, which helps feed more people around the world. there's a lot of positives from this that most people don't understand and aren't thinking about. It not only is this conflict isn't just about Iran, although it is about that and terrorism. It's about China. Every day that we go through the blockade is denying and pushing back the ability of China to use its incredibly large navy to threaten Taiwan, Japan,
Right.
The Philippines, and South Korea. There is
pause
a
right
lot
there for a
more
second,
going
Mike.
on. Go ahead.
Pause right there for a second. It's a good time to remind people that that China, and I do think this is part of Trump's strategy. China actually gets its oil from three major countries. That's Russia, Venezuela, and Iran. Now, Venezuela is really kind of butting up more towards us now after we took out Maduro. And of course, Iran is on the brink of not being able to supply. Well, right now they're not supplying oil to China, and
Neither
on the
is
brink of not
Venezuela.
being able to ever do it again. Well, maybe like on the black market, right? And then they have Russia, who has their own issues. So they're in a bit of a trouble. So I do think there's like some 3D chess going on there. So you can continue. There, you had more to say about what a win
Slightly.
is like?
Remember, this is part of a long-term plan. And again, mainstream news media doesn't want to talk about it. People like us have to, because the public isn't being informed. Venezuela provided 80% of its oil to China. Iran provided about 50% of its oil to to China. We've cut off Venezuela. They're not getting oil. Those are old numbers. They don't get any more. And
That's awesome.
Iran, because of the blockade, the reason why there was a blockade was because Iran was sending oil directly to Pakistan, which sends it to China, and directly to China, which goes to China. And we stopped them because China is using Pakistan to help Iran against us in this war. They love the fact that there's more terrorism as long as it doesn't directly affect China. They love that it targets America. They want us to waste our time, money, and more importantly, political pressure. They want political pressure on Trump. They want the whole thing that Iran is doing right now is they are trying to buy time to make Republicans get afraid of the midterm elections. So, and because of that, they'll put pressure on Trump to back down and keep the Ayatollah in power, keep the IRGC in power, keep global terrorism alive. That's what they're buying time for. And China's helping them to do that. People don't understand the nature of what's actually happening in the geopolitics right now.
Okay, I want to get back to your original. The original part of the discussion was what is the win for the U.S. in the Iran war, epic fury, and you said to keep the strait open, but run by who?
Run by no one. It's open. It's an open waterway.
I like that.
It's the way it's been working.
Anything you said tonight. That's good.
Well, no, that's the way it's always been. It's always been an open waterway. By the way, half of the Strait of Hormuz is controlled and owned and controlled by Oman. Part of the Strait of Hormuz is actually owned by the UAE. There's actually a dividing line. So there's the Iran side, then there's the other side. And Iran is trying to basically control the whole thing, which is an international law violation, but that's another thing altogether. So no, everyone could flout. That's like saying, if you want to go through the Gulf of America, who do you got to pay? No one. You want to go through the Caribbean Sea? No one. You want to go through the Red Sea? No one. You want to go through the Panama Canal? That's something different because that's an artificial man-made construct. Right. And you have the option, go around South America if you don't want to pay it. The Strait of Hormuz, that isn't. That's an entirely different thing.
Okay, Joe, you're up.
I'm sure you guys have seen like the meme of this, but you know how the strait looks like, right? It kind of like it's almost like a V or a U or something.
Yeah.
And you could almost in the meme you just go across the land.
Yeah, they're idiots. They're idiots. Okay. You know what's there. You know what they're trying to dig through. It's a mountain.
I actually don't know. I don't know.
It's a mountain.
No, I don't know the meme. I don't know.
It's a mountain range. You can't dig through it. It's not possible.
Okay.
But I know the meme, but that's why I'm saying the people, they do that. And this is how we mislead people to try and weaken Trump and put pressure on Republicans to bow down They're playing a political war because they can't win the physical one. And that meme, whenever it gets circulated, people look at that and go, well, why don't we just do that? It's a mountain range.
Okay, but
can't
my
dig through
point, the meme's point is, I think, is to go around it. Like, okay, just do something else. Like, make it irrelevant, basically.
Oh, I see.
So-
All right, so
right.
so explain. Wait, hold on. Just so everybody's on the same page about the meme. There's a meme out there that says we don't need the Strait of Hormuz. We could just go around it on land. And Michael,
Yeah.
you're saying there's a mountain there, so it's not possible.
Yes, you can't do a Panama
Okay, all right,
Canal.
great.
Go ahead.
I didn't know anything about it, so I want to catch up.
Mhm.
Catch up with the viewers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
because
Joe.
how
I'm
does
sorry.
Kuwait get their oil out? Because it's the Gulf. And how does Kuwait get any oil out except to get it through other countries
Yeah.
to get to the Arabian Sea or something? Because the Gulf is there and you have to go through the Strait, and that's your only option to get out. So if you do control the Strait, then it blocks all the oil, and you could extort, and you could have like a toll or something like that, and that's not what the world really wants to see. So
Right.
you do have the Strait there, and you have to keep the Strait open to all countries, which it's been. And we'll see. Hopefully it'll return to international cooperation, I guess, stuff like that.
You know what's kind of funny
good.
about this, though, is Michael, you mentioned one of the wins is to open up the Strait, I believe. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Maybe it was John. One of you two.
It was me.
Okay, so it was open before. So a win is just to get back to where we were before we started this thing?
No.
Okay, hold on. That's great question, and it's something that I've been thinking about, and actually kind of brought that up with some family over the weekend. If all this ends up just right back to where we started, where gas goes back to where it was, and the Strait of Hormuz is just running the way it was before, what the heck was the point?
But Charles, mission accomplished.
No, that is a complete misreading of it, and it's an oversimplification. That's completely wrong.
I said it.
Because what we're looking at is, again, the point of this is to remove and destabilize the global leader of international terror that has been seeking to destroy the United States, that has the capability of building ballistic missiles that can take out every major city in Europe right now, which means they are not far away from being able to have ballistic missiles that can reach the United States. That's just about fuel, not about guidance. And they are trying to develop, and they have insisted that they will continue to develop nuclear programs. That was according to the president of Iran over this weekend. So they are a clear and present threat on multiple levels to the United States. This is existential.
Okay.
We are fighting to remove that existential threat.
Hold on. I'm gonna bring John back in. So John, this is one of the major talking points is what the heck are we doing there in the first place? Are we going after a global terrorist and that's it? After 47 years of not saying anything about it whatsoever, nobody said we should go in there and fight Iran for 47 years, and all of a sudden it became a thing. And why does Trump always say, well, gas is going to be so low when this is over, which makes it sound like it kind of is about the gas price as well. So, John, have you gotten a clear idea of what the heck was the goal in the first place?
Okay. To be fair, it was a big issue, a big concern that Iran with nuclear capabilities could harm us. I mean, that's something that the U.S. is trying to avoid. And we did have the deal under Obama, and then that was removed. And then now you do have the option of trying to remove the nuclear threat. And it's kind of hard. Plus, you do have the issue of if you do take out the regime, then what replaces it? You don't know. It could be someone that we get along with great that doesn't create nuclear weapons. We could get a new regime that creates nuclear weapons again, and then 50 years we have this problem again, and we're not all going to be here, except maybe Joe. He's so young. He'll be here in 50 years, but I won't be around. So the thing is, sometimes we change these regimes, but it is something that, as a country, the threat of nuclear harm, the way Iran's behavior was, the U.S. for safety, what comes next, and we'll have to see.
Yeah.
It could be no threat to the U.S. or another country, regime that takes over could be a real danger to us, and then they could. And other countries around the world too, what we have to deal with is we have nuclear weapons. We can use nuclear weapons, and we don't want anybody else to get nuclear weapons at all. And that might be a problem that we have for the future. So I've got no great answer on that, except that we would need to be as safe as possible. But the use of it's just going to, the world amount of nuclear weapons if they decide to, and you have international treaties, but they only go so far. So we have to keep as safe as possible, and we'll see how this goes. It's a mystery on what is exactly is going to end up like 6 months, a year from now. We don't know whether Iran will hardly be talked about in America anymore, or whether we can remove the threat or not, and we'll see how it goes.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Yes, and we'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to bring it back to the shore.
You see the comment?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obama's nuclear
That's
deal.
all we have.
I mean,
we
a joke.
I believe John wasn't commenting on the virility of the deal, just that there wasn't one in place, to point out that we were trying.
It's the reason we're here today. But go on.
Let's move back to the shore. And there's a couple of, I get the feeling you guys want to continue talking about that. You had something to say, Joe? I mean,
predictions. I want to do a prediction segment after everything we do here. Because I want to predict something very bold here.
Okay.
Troops on the ground in 6 months.
Okay. What do you think? Troops on the ground, Mike?
Not Americans. The Kurds are already moving in. Saudis will probably move in. Might see Israel with some actions. U.S. will probably have not troops on the ground to take over Iran, but troops coming in for missions, kind of like Delta Force in Venezuela. They come in, they strike, they go back out. You'll probably see that. The whole thing will be over by August. This is not going to be long term. China can't afford it.
But August was is more than just a couple of weeks. Trump said in the beginning.
Yeah, but that's the way you actually. That's the proper way. You keep people with high motivation during high risk, and with moments of crisis, you show strong leadership, strong confidence, and then that keeps up morale. Of course, he said that. Everyone says that when they start a conflict or any engagement. If they don't, they're morons and they lose. Of course, they're saying that.
All right. John, what do you think? Oh, so Joe, let's go back. You meant U.S. boots on the ground, right? Okay. John, what do you think?
Handle it much differently. Remember, Colin with George Herbert Walker Bush went into the Persian Gulf War. You use overwhelming force. You have the support of the American people, and those are the terms that he was saying go in. And you do need surprise sometimes. You do need that, where you can't sometimes broadcast what you're going to do. But for the Persian Gulf War, it was actually very, being honest about it, even being a Democrat, it was very well done. And you can't run all the wars like that. But, George Herbert Walker Bush was, I think, the best use of international diplomacy and American foreign policy that I had ever seen. To get this together. And Colin Powell, he had his doctrine of you have the American people behind you. You use overwhelming force. Unfortunately, you have to, maybe not do a genocide or something like that, but you do have to go in at all and get a victory. And the Persian Gulf, I mean, maybe it was just a fluke, but the Persian Gulf War, plus George Herbert Walker Bush had worked with all these allies, and he got all this international help and all of this international cooperation. So, I mean, we did it pretty much somewhat our own course. He did reach out to the world, and he did kind of sell it to the world.
So, John, I got a question for you. The one part I didn't hear, John, is did you say American troops on the ground?
Now, I think what's going to happen is I think Iran is going to cut a deal. They're talking 5 years, no nuclear weapons. I don't know how they were talking at one point of they have to agree to 20 years, but I'm not sure how current administrations can agree for the future because 20 years, different Democratic and Republican administrations are going to be in, and the world will be different. But how can you make a deal for 20 years, even though you could make a thing where they have to agree to checks on the country or something?
Well, that's treaties. Yeah, we have treaties that last much longer than the one administration's term. So I don't think we have to, like SALT, for instance, with the Soviet Union. And you brought up Colin Powell, who is my adult idol. My child idol is Joe Namath, and my adult idol is Colin Powell, who's a great American, fantastic leader. And because we have such a great system here, the president really doesn't necessarily know a lot about the military unless they served in the military. They are civilians. Colin Powell, I can guarantee you, put most of that together. So he has to get. So of course the president signs off on it in the long run. But Colin Powell is the genius behind everything that happened. And the reason why we didn't go into Iraq the first time and we let them run back is because Powell told Bush, "Don't do it. It'll be a bloodbath." And oh boy, was he right. Okay. All righty, guys. So we're going to go back to the shore. There's a couple of the U.S. shore away from over there. There's a couple of court decisions that caught my attention. Now, this came out in the news like just last month that Google and Meta are being held liable for social media addiction and endangering the children by exposing them to sexually explicit material. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Now, let me frame the conversation for you. A jury, first off, one case was in New Mexico where a jury found Meta liable for endangering children and exposing them to sexually explicit material and contact with sexual predators. Now, that was one court case. And the second court case was in July. A 20-year-old woman was handed a victory. She sued Meta and Google, specifically YouTube, over her childhood addiction to social media. Jurors found that that Meta and Google intentionally built addictive social platforms that harmed this 20-year-old woman, her mental health. So she's getting right now $6 million. Of course, the two companies are going to appeal. So is this a good decision by the courts in both of these cases, the sexual predator, sexually explicit material for children, and the mental health? Should social media be held liable for this? We're going to go to you first on this one, John.
Yes, I think that there has to be safeguards on for children on these platforms. That there's a free market, but with children, there have to be safeguards against them being harmed. I don't see any other route that you could go. And I know it could be questioned whether the media stuff is addictive or not. That could be a question. As a teacher, we see, even though I can't scientifically say I can absolutely see it, I can absolutely test it, I can absolutely say 100%, but it seems like there may be addictive qualities to these. They may be hard to prove and stuff, but for the ones where the apps that put kids in danger, it sounds like anything that would do something that almost sounds criminal would be outlawed, and having children access to it. So I think that we can create, and that's the big question of our day, is how do you have the free market where people allowed to use this stuff, and how do we protect our children against the worst effects? I know Joe being libertarian, you won't want to totally ban stuff, but then again, there might be stuff you really have to ban if it's really a danger to children. And how do you do that responsibly?
Okay, you know what? Give us some insight. Let's just take a side street here. Give us some insight. What's the rules? What school district? This is the Volusia County School District you work for, correct?
Yes.
And what is the rule there for students, middle school and high school students having a phone?
Oh, they're supposed to put it away during class time. And then the only thing we do is every student has a computer. And we encourage them as much as we can to use the computer. But the thing is, we never, that I know of, have them use social media. So, and anything is supposed to be instructive. It's supposed to be academic, which would not be anything that would harm them. So I never see I couldn't imagine us encouraging any kind of social media or any kind of technology that would be a danger. Plus, we do have this to kind of clarify it. My computer and the students' computers do have blocks from different things.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that could be a danger would be blocked, at least during school time. And that's all that we could deal with. But we absolutely don't want them to be involved in anything that would harm them. And at least at high school, I don't see it at all. We do research on American government and stuff like that, and nothing that social media or something that's going to harm them. It's just not at all part of classroom instruction.
This is a topic for another day, but I find it almost impossible to teach without using social media to one extent or another. But getting back to the main point, Michael, you're up next. Were these decisions good? Should Google and Meta be liable for the sexual predators and social media addiction?
Okay. One, yes, we do know for a fact it's already been done in Europe. This is the same court cases have been running for almost 7 years now. And yes, there is scientific evidence that does say that there are certain sites that are more addictive and have been intentionally made addictive for younger individuals. In particular, we're talking about Instagram. That's one of the reasons why Meta, which also owns Facebook, that's why they're involved in this case. And of course, Google has also done a lot of that with YouTube in the way that they've structured their algorithm to encourage certain things, especially like the slop videos that are on 24 hours that have zero real content, all created by AI, and they've encouraged that through their AIs. So we do have the evidence of that. And because they algorithmically have promoted these channels, this content that they know is going to have a negative impact. They've already done this. They already have internal studies that have been done on it, not just external, but internally. Whistleblowers have revealed they know their numbers. They know that it is addictive to younger individuals, some of this content that they promote. Then yes, they should be punished for that. But no, we do not need government to get involved, because that will be a restriction of the freedom of speech, because government doesn't know the damn difference. And they always go overboard. We've seen that with SOPA, PIPA, every one of the internet conversations, in particular, things that we've heard from Richard Blumenthal out of Connecticut. They want control. When the government gets a chance, and especially on the left, like Richard Blumenthal, they want control of what you see and how you can respond as an adult and as a child, because they don't know the difference. And we're seeing this happen live in England right now. And that's what they're trying to model everything after. So we need more parents need to be more proactive. And I know a lot of people say, well, we have blocks built in, child protected thing. That crap doesn't work because it's like a safe. You make a better safe, there'll be a better safe cracker. Kids are getting into these programs all the time. What we need is more awareness of adults and parents on what their kids are doing, and we have to put more restrictions. It's not enough that we say, don't bring out, put your phone away. Don't give the kid a phone. If you're 16, I can say, give the kid a phone. You're 12, you don't need a phone. They don't get one. Why are they using computers? Give them books. You learned on a book. I learned on a book. The guys who built the internet, built the computer, built the satellites, all learned off of carrying a couple of books with a pen and paper. The kids can do the same thing. Treat them the same, because math hasn't changed. History really hasn't changed. Why are we changing all of this stuff? Because a bunch of progressives feel like they are smarter than everything that has preceded them, and they aren't. This is simple. Go backwards, treat kids like children with children's restrictions, and if you do that, you will improve the future. And when we see companies actively abuse the opportunities that they have, then we punish them too. Does that answer that? I think it's kind of cool.
No, bottom line is Google and Meta, should they be held liable?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So Joe, you're up.
Yeah, I was on Facebook earlier today, and one of my friends posted a picture of herself in a bikini, and so I looked at it an extra 5 seconds longer, and I think I should get $6 million for Facebook putting that content in front of my eyes. I want my $6 million now.
There you go.
No, of course not. Of course, Facebook and Meta and all of them should not be held liable. This is I consented to look at this stuff, and so did the people posting this stuff on there. And I know we're four grown men on here right now. The four of us used to be boys, right? And I remember when I was a boy, I would go to over my friends, buddies' houses, and we hang out in the garage. And my buddy's, in my buddy's garage, there would be a box hidden somewhere, and in that box, there's a couple Playboys. We would open it up, we'd look at it, for the articles, obviously, and we'd read them. And we're 10-year-old boys looking at pornography here. Are we going to blame Playboy for that, or are we going to blame that person's dad for hiding that box of Playboys in the garage and buying it and putting it there in the first place? No, this is parents. And I think all of us can agree the parents are the ones that should be somewhat at fault here, at least somewhat. I think it should be fully at fault. But as far as like Meta goes, no, it should be nothing at all. It's insane. It's like saying, how dare, with the algorithms or whatever, how dare brewers put sugar on their ice cream and make me think it tastes good and want to go buy another quart of ice cream. That's the same thing with algorithms. Algorithms on social media show you what you want to see. No, okay.
Well, no, that's fundamentally wrong. That is fundamentally scientifically wrong.
No. Well, the algorithms do show you what you want to see.
Exactly.
Well, no. But the algorithms can and are being tweaked, and they are specifically targeting certain groups of individuals, especially the youth. Again, we have seen this from whistleblowers from Instagram, which is Meta, which is Facebook, that they have targeted this. This is not a question, it's a fact.
Michael, if you go to McDonald's, they have something called a kids meal, and you get a little toy in every single one of them. Is that not marketing to kids? And what do parents do? They buy the kids meal for their kids. No,
that's an adult decision. What you're not seeing is that, and you want to know what's a really good analogy? When I was a kid, you used to be able to get a box of not cigarettes, candy cigarettes, and it was just a bunch of sugar, but it was made in the same shape and style as a cigarette, and it would come in a box that looked like a cigarette box. Now, it wasn't, but that was misleading, and that was something that was meant to trigger. that this is cool, this is normal, this is something what you do. It's a very different culture back in the 70s. And it was stopped. Why? Because that was something that was tempting kids and it was putting them on the wrong path. We agreed on that. It scientifically was correct. And by the way, who is selling that candy? Cigarette companies, because they knew that this would help to create a greater addiction. They were using the addiction of sugar to get to the addiction of nicotine, and it was effective. And again, it is a fact that the companies we're talking about have created algorithms and have focused on content that they know is harmful, in particular to young women, especially young women in their 12 to 16 age group, that they were targeting them, that this was specifically meant to keep them online longer, even though it was winding up increasing the number of young women with eating disorders. So it's not a question of, oh, you have a choice. By the way, children don't have a choice. They don't have that freedom because they're not adults. So it is intrinsically a problem of those companies in that case. That doesn't mean we need more government, but it does mean we need to punish the companies because they actively did something.
Okay, you know what? Hold on 1 second. We are going to actually, Michael brought up a great little piece of history there, the cigarette candies. So here we go, folks.
Oh, yeah.
That is what they look like. This is King Cigarettes, which was a real cigarette brand at one time. So this comes from Grandpa Joe's Candy, bubblegum cigarettes, and Mike was referring to the actual sugar. So you can see right here, it says, these bubblegum cigarettes blow smoke out, also known as sugar, out of the end. I remember having these too, Michael. We used to, it was the coolest thing, man. Mine were smaller and they had like little red tips.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember the red tip ones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
They still have when you were around, Joe?
I mean, it's still
the
around.
white
This
ones
is a
with the
legal
red
site.
tip, yeah.
This is some general store. It says urbangeneralstore.com. I mean, there they are. I Googled it and came right up. So, yeah, I wanted to show that. That's a cool little part of history right there. And also a lot of
when I was young, they looked like thin chalk.
Yes.
They were nothing like that. They looked like thin
chalk. Yeah, that's so much better.
Chewable.
They probably use a 3D printer to make those today. And my niece, I got to pass this one on too, because it just blew her mind. They used to be, you could just go into a Dunkin' Donuts and there used to be cigarette machines, just like there were candy machines. And you could just, 45 cents, I guess. And, whatever it was, get a pack right out of there. There was no one stopping you. I'm getting this from my mom. Oh, okay. And then, pull the lever and there you go. So
no, I remember going into like a grocery store, and there would be like porn magazines, like Penthouse and Playboy.
Yeah, right there.
Before the covers. And by the way, I used to be shorter. I know some of you guys know how tall I am. I used to be short and not see over the counter, and the Playboys are right there.
Yeah,
right in front of my face.
Those were the days. You didn't even have to pay for it.
No, I know. I love those days. Those are great.
Okay, well, you know what? Let me play devil's advocate here and just tell you a couple of one-liners from both Meta and Google. So Meta said that teen mental health is profoundly complex and cannot be linked to a single app. And they got a point there. That could go very well as a legal argument that they're like, hey, this person, if you go in case by case, right? This 20-year-old that won the $6 million, and when they appeal, they could say, well, she had other mental issues. It was A, B, and C. On a legal case, I see where they're going with that. It kind of makes sense as a defense standpoint. Google said that the case misunderstands YouTube, which is a responsibly built streaming platform, not a social media site. That kind of sounds weak to me. Like you're saying because you were misidentified as a social media site when you're really a streaming platform, therefore you're not causing mental harm. That to me seems a little bit of a stretch. I think Meta has a better take on how to defend themselves than Google does on this one. What?
I have to say something now. Expect to get served soon, because I am suing you because you had on a guest interview a couple weeks ago named Joe Hannoush, and I find myself addicted to the screen. I had to watch, I had to listen, and I want my $6 million.
Well, I think all three of us can agree that Joe Hannoush is very addictive.
Thank you.
Of course.
If they love it, if you think Joe Hannoush is addictive, hit the like button, hit the bell, hit the share button.
But
Yes,
last election, the votes weren't there.
Yes, vote for Joe. There we go.
They weren't there.
Yes.
We both lost.
Yeah. But I can win
Joe
tonight.
makes a good
Put a like on this. Put a like on this video. It's a vote for Joe. There we go.
Joe brings up a good point. If you like the show, please like. No, actually, I'm taking that back. Whether you like the show or dislike the show, please like, comment, and share. Because if you care, you will like, comment, and share, and we can get more information out like this. If you go to buy me a cup of tea, because I don't really
and then we're actually going to have a society with this.
I don't really drink coffee.
I put my phone on the shelf, and for hours I don't even look at it. But I wonder if we're going to go as a society and eventually going to go and use phones less. It sure doesn't seem that way seeing my students, but I wonder if we're gonna. It's going to it's like a new sensation. It's going to overplay itself.
Probably.
Or something else is going to replace it. The phones are going to be gone. There's going to be a new obsession. I don't know what it would be.
Oh yeah, well it could be down the road. You don't know.
Maybe.
All of a sudden I'm echoing. Are you guys hearing
I don't know.
I hear a little bit of echo.
that? Okay. Do you hear my echoing?
Obsession, but because it did people are for too long from their phone. And when I was young, as you all were young, the phones were here, like my phone right here, so a landline. And that's what I grew up with, and actually had a cord and stuff. You couldn't go far, but we rarely used the phone. And I couldn't believe that as an adult and later that the phone was going to be an addiction for people. I would have figured other things would be an addiction. Never would have figured the phone. But somehow,
like the candy cigarette.
TV was an addiction. And what are our phones today? They're mobile TVs. It is audio visual with the colors. Yeah. And that's what's addictive. That's part of the addiction to it. But you also have an audio component to it. And there's a lot to the science involved in this. This is not a new question. This is actually a very old question. And again, it has been resolved. It's not a question that they're doing it on purpose. They are. Therefore, they are liable. It is. We can make light of it, or we can misunderstand it, but it is the reality. And in the future, are we going to
react? And is this just our future that we're?
You're dropping out.
Yeah, Joe. John, you were dropping out.
Yeah, John, you're dropping out every now and then.
Oh, what is in the future? What is it going to change? Because things go through, and then there's new addictions or something where like TV and things like that. How the future is going to be, we just don't know. And whether the kids' generation, how they were addicted to the phones, is it going to be going a different direction? But I don't know how this is going to go. Where for a millennium now, we're just going to be addicted to the phones, and
it could be
so addictive that it would only get worse to where we can hardly live without. And they're talking about implanting it in the ear and stuff, and in the future, true or not, I don't know.
Well, I would say that,
but
something
they
else
make it like it's implanted, and you make a phone call.
I would say that sooner or later there will be something else that comes along. To wrap up this segment, over in Australia, they have imposed restrictions for children to stop or limit their use of social media. That's only come down in recent months. And the UK is currently running a pilot program to see how a ban of social media for people aged under 16 may work. And that's actually, Mike, you had brought that up. 16 is your age as well. So that's something pretty interesting. We'll see how that goes. It's going to wind its way through the courts, and I'm sure a lot of other people are looking at those cases to see if they should jump into the arena of suing these companies. I mean, they are addicting. Just personally speaking, they are addicting, and I force myself to not look at stuff because I want to get on and get off and get back to work. But doing the work that I do, I have to be my own social media manager, and unless somebody wants to do it for free, but otherwise it's me. and you got to get the word out. So I go on there, but I try to do quick hits. So we're not so I'm not spending too much time on there. Let's see. Joel checks in. He said this implanted Elon chip will replace the phone addiction. So Elon Musk is thinking about that. All right, interesting.
Neuralink.
What's Mona Lisa Overdrive?
It's a book. William Gibson's book. Blade Runner is basically, it's kind of based on it and derived from it. Philip K. Dick. It's like Philip K. Dick future, but based with more of our modern understanding of the internet and computers and connectivity that Philip K. Dick didn't know about. And it's a very much you've ever heard of the genre called cyberpunk?
Yes.
Okay. That came from William Gibson. That came from Mona Lisa Overdrive. That's one of his first novels. And that is it was the genesis of that whole movement of cyberpunk back in the mid 80s. And so that's what we're looking at as likely the future.
Okay. All right. So, folks, I started to ask you to like, comment, and share, and also please subscribe and to support the show. It would be awesome to have folks go over to buy me a cup of tea because I don't drink coffee. But if you go to my website, you'll see the link right there, and I have the link scrolling across the bottom until I say that, and then it goes away. But I have the link scrolling across the bottom. It's buymecoffee.com/Chuck Long Island. Support the show. Support my independent journalism. I am giving it to the Daytona Beach City Commission. Even though Mr. Navarra wants to be on there, I am giving him a hard time in my blog. So I'd like some support there, too, to keep the honest journalism coming because that place is up in flames. And I am going to point out how they don't really care about the rules. They'll do what they want, whatever they want, because they're like all the other politicians. So that's that in a nutshell. You can go to chucklongisland.com and see why they disregard or how they are disregarding the agreements they make with their city manager. Alrighty, so we will move on from that to the next segment of the show. You know what I want to tell people is you'll see it going across the bottom of the screen there. There is in East Central Florida a fire weather watch for tomorrow. The actual hours are going across the screen, and I just wanted folks to know about that. And East Central Florida does include Volusia County, which is where me, John, and Joe are from. So per Volusia County, it's coming across right now on the bottom there. There's a fire weather watch in effect for tomorrow, I think until 6 p.m. from the National Weather Service. It is coming across the bottom of the screen. Be aware of that. And if that affects you at your job, at your house, please take proper precautions. All right, so we've got some New York news because we're in a New York kind of groove. And that's going to come from Mr. Michael Vass. Is going to fill us in on the latest food deserts in New York City. So what's going on there with Mamdani and getting rid of those food deserts, Mike?
I thought you were going to go after Kathy Hocul and her stupid idea to try and sue ICE, which is not what she's authorized to do. But in terms of Mamdani, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's so much stupidity that comes out of New York. I can only pick one for the show, so I went with Mamdani.
No, I understand, but people should probably check that out
Except
too.
for you.
She's out of her mind. Yeah, I did cover it. I know I covered it. Larry probably will soon. But in terms of Mamdani,
yes,
he made a couple of promises. He sold himself on free, and now people get to see what socialism is actually like. The hook is it's free. Reality, it's not free, and nothing about it is free. Not the free buses, and now we're talking about the free grocery stores, a concept that was tried in Kansas City, already failed, and now it's going to fail with Mamdani. He announced two things over the last week, that the first of his stores is going to be in Harlem, which is a location that is surrounded by, within 2 blocks, by 4 supermarkets, within 10 blocks by 15 supermarkets, so not a food desert. He's going to build it from the ground up. That will cost $30 million, which is somewhere, depending on how you want to count, somewhere between 5 to 10 times more expensive than a private business building it. So we could literally build about 10 of these things if a private business had the 30 million. That's just to build it. And it's tiny. It's about the size of a bodega, which, if you don't know, in New York, that's kind of like a large gas station, essentially. And so he's building this for $30 million. Then he has to buy the equipment, pay the employees, and actually get the food. So we're looking at somewhere around $50 million for this one store that he then came out with the second bit of news. You're not going to save money on almost anything in the store except eggs, bread, basic eggs, bread, butter, basic staples, milk. But if you're going in there to buy just about everything else that you might need, nope, you're paying top dollar, just like anywhere else. So you won't save money. He lied, lied.
So, why don't they just make it easier for mom and pop grocers to open up instead of doing this?
What he could have. And actually, that was the National Grocery Stores Association, the NGA. That was their proposal, that stop wasting people's money, because this is a waste of money, and actually just take the money that you're using and give it as a grant, either a repayable or non-repayable grant to stores throughout New York City, grocery owners who've been there for the last 20, 25 years, and give them that money so that they can build up their stores, help to innovate and renovate. Just give them the money.
Yeah.
And he won't do it because, well, that doesn't help him get votes or convert people to socialism, because they're too stupid to understand socialism lies, just like Democrats.
And there is a different way you could fight food deserts. Okay. My way was, I've seen this in my teaching career. When I was in school, a lot of the students got out and they had a high school diploma and they worked a minimum wage job pretty much for the rest of their lives. And when I was teaching students at my school, they got a high school diploma and they and their parents worked a minimum wage job the rest of their lives. Now we're doing something different. We actually have welding. We actually have HVAC. We actually have these different vocational trainings in which are actually preparing them, and they do get jobs, and they get like $60,000 a year because they're trained right out of high school to work at these different positions. So what I did was I tried to have, before I ran for state representative the first time, I tried to have a training fair in Daytona Beach, and people could go in the poor areas and they could learn how to get trained for these better jobs. And at least someone could maybe get trained and then do better, because it seemed like when I was in school, almost all the students had gone into low pay jobs and they stayed there the rest of their lives. And now I just see students at my school that are getting these good trades and they're getting these good incomes because they have skills that could bargain in the marketplace, that they are successful in the marketplace. What would be wrong with that, Mike?
No. Hold on, John. We started out asking about food deserts, and you went into job training. I miss the connection?
For you
dropped out again.
Because what you do is you improve people's salaries and therefore you build up a neighborhood. And I saw Volusia County as not having the skills in order to have higher paying jobs. And for a large extent, it's been rectified.
Okay, I'm going to go up to Joe because, Joe, I know some of Daytona Beach is in your district. I don't know if it's beachside or not. Can you answer that question? Is it?
Yeah, it's all Daytona.
Oh, it's all Daytona. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So beachside, folks might be surprised to know this. There are no grocery stores. So it's a food desert in the sense that there's no grocery stores. There's plenty of places to eat, but there are no grocery stores. So what would be, if you're elected, what would be your answer to get a grocery store down there?
If people want to put a grocery store there, I think they should be allowed to put one there. I think there is a Publix in Bella Plaza.
No.
No?
No. There's a certain section of there is a Publix on A1A, but there's a certain section of of Daytona Beach, maybe it's closer to City Hall, that doesn't have a grocery store, and people complain about it all the time. So we do have a food desert there.
Yeah,
The one that you're
I'm
talking
open
about
to it.
is right across the street from right across the street from a lot of hotels. And yes, like on one side of A1A, there's the hotels, the other side is the Publix.
Right.
So maybe they get some good business there. But when you go into other parts of Daytona Beach, I know there's none. They talk about when there used to be one. Perhaps it's down more like towards Seabreeze for people know that area. But what would be your plan? We know you're not doing Mamdani. Would you do the job training? Would you hook up with John on that if he's on the city commission? Or do you have an alternate plan?
I think if we are going to spend, if the government is going to provide funding for education or skills or whatever, I think it should go towards that, like HVAC and what is it, math? I think
skilled trades.
Yeah, the trades basically. Yes, electrician. Fix refrigerators, whatever the thing is. I think if we're going to have money funding allocated to stuff like that, I think it absolutely should be going to that kind of stuff. And I'm going to steal something from Larry Sharp here, and he has like the last 2 years, 11th and 12th grade of high school. You would take whatever allocation of money that would go to the public school for that student per year, which in Volusia County is about $20,000 plus. So you would take some of that and you would help fund an apprenticeship with like an electrician, an auto body shop, something like that. Pool cleaning, something where people can get out of their own, of like doing what John said earlier, basically working a minimum wage your whole life. Or you just take some of the money and you start college earlier. If it's not for you, you find out 2 years earlier. Or you could put it into entrepreneurship, like $20,000 in 1 year. I don't know how much food trucks cost, but I think that's probably a pretty good down payment at least. And do food trucks for a year, see if that works out. It's better than being in school for 1 year, right?
Okay, so let me address this a little bit more logically.
Oh, God.
Because the answer isn't
very sharp.
No, Larry's got a great plan, and I have nothing against, and I actually am an advocate for our youth going into skilled trades. We need it. We've had a dearth of that for the last 10 years. It is a significant problem for America. So yes, I do encourage that. And I blame Obama for trying to convince everyone to go into a service economy instead of manufacturing, which has been absolutely detrimental to the middle class and lower classes in America. That's been devastating for us. But the answer isn't make more money. That doesn't put a grocery store in your neighborhood. That doesn't help you get better food or better quality food. Here's the real answer to the question about food deserts and how to deal with that. You create a better opportunity for business owners to actually go in and actually build a supermarket, not the government, because the government doesn't know how to run anything. And that's why they always waste money. And that's why every time this has been done, it fails. It isn't the problem of not having getting minimum wage. That's an individual problem. If you know someone who gets hired at minimum wage and their entire life they're only earning minimum wage, that is a them problem. They have completely screwed up their life. That has nothing to do with government or training or grocery stores. That's a them problem. They're an idiot. Now, everyone else will be able to take advantage. If we make it effective, if governors, mayors, if the city councils, if we see that they are putting through proper, effective policies, then people will naturally go to those food deserts and they will build it because there is a need, and that will then fund them. The reason why Daytona Beach doesn't have a grocery store is because the businesses on the beach make money from tourists who are running around, going to the restaurants. And it's more lucrative to build a restaurant than to have a supermarket. But if Daytona Beach gave an incentive for small businesses to actually build a supermarket, that food desert would disappear. It's just not economically viable, and or you have a bad government. In my case, in New York, I have currently, and for the last 58 years, we've had bad government because Democrats have been in charge, and their policies aren't there to solve the problem. It is to extend it. to kick it down the road, because a dependent population is a population you can control, whether economically or socially. You say you have to vote Democrat or you will lose these benefits that we are providing to you. Whether you're a business owner and your bodega is now dependent on whether or not the city's going to keep building these stores, even though they can lose all the money in the universe, they'll never close because they're the government. So now the bodega and small business are dependent on the government to not put them out of business. The local communities are dependent on the government to supplement their incomes, because they won't allow the kids to learn trades, because they're trying to teach them how to be a service rather than self-sufficient in a trade. That
I would say, Michael, that the Republicans aren't any better with that. Republicans pretend they're going to cut social welfare programs, pretend they're going to. We still have Obamacare. They don't do it. The same, different sides of the same coin. They're not doing anything different. Little cut here, little cut. The Doge my ass. Nothing. Come on. They're the
no,
same.
That's not entirely true.
They're the same. Yeah, let's hit some comments. So we got Liberty Twitcher is checking in. Isn't it interesting that obesity is high in food deserts? I don't know that to be a fact, but
that's tend to happen. But that's because people eat badly.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, if you ate better, that's true too. Hal's checking in. And always good to hear from you, Hal. He blames Obama, and then he follows it up with LOL.
Yeah, Hal loves Obama, but he ain't a saint, and he wasn't perfect, and he screwed up this nation. And people are too busy saying, but he's black, to realize he was a miserable, one of the worst presidents we've had in a long time.
But he got a Nobel Peace Prize
for doing nothing.
Yeah, as he bombed the hell out of Yemen and Pakistan and a few other places. Yeah.
Drones. Exactly. He loved drones so much that the TSA had to leave him. He was too much of a warmonger.
Now I have something, if I could, just add a little bit to the conversation. In my union, NASA asks Volusia County for certain qualified people for these high-level positions at NASA to build rockets, to build other stuff, send off to space, and the salary's like $90,000 a year. And what we say month after month after month is, we have no one qualified to give you. And there's a place on North Beach Street, and you can go on, if you have initiative, you can go on Saturdays and you could get trained for 5 years, and you could make 60,000 coming out and probably make 200,000. I'm guarantee this in about 2 or 3 years. So anybody with a high school diploma can go to this academy on Saturdays and work a job Monday to Friday and have the initiative to go on a Saturday and go through the training, and they could make 60, 90, 100,000, and these positions go unfilled of the training. And so isn't that a problem in society? Maybe a lack of knowledge of this, because I don't see anything wrong with kids getting out 18 years old and going to Saturday school, working Monday to Friday, going to Saturday school. And in 5 years, they could be working, making stuff for NASA, earning $90,000 a year. NASA wants the employment, and we have to say no because we don't have the people qualified.
Yes.
That's and great. Just so people know, that I like to do the geography so people around the world and know exactly where everything is located, and can see why NASA would ask Volusia County school system. You could literally see the rockets take off from pretty much everywhere in Volusia County. When they go off in the early morning, I get up super early. I'm usually up like 1, 2 a.m. And I will go outside and watch the early morning rockets. I think there's one tomorrow at like 2:56. And you could just see, and I'll take photos and put them up on my Facebook if you're interested. But yes, we are that close. It's only about 60, 65 miles away. And when they shoot the rockets off, you can see them over here. So it's not surprising that they would ask us. In defense of the schools, though, they are rated very high, but maybe the bar is low to begin with. Liberty Twitcher checks in, and she says that Ford mechanics can easily make $120,000, but they can't find enough. They can't find enough who want the work. Really, as a Ford mechanic. They're not even like grease monkeys anymore. They used to be like called grease monkeys because you would get so dirty being a mechanic. Now with the computers, it's kind of like a very clean sort of job where you're really just using your hands. You don't have to worry about, getting all dirty. Young people just don't want that kind of hard work.
Yes.
And then she said that Ford lacks 5,000 mechanics. Well, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to say something, Michael?
Yeah, it's again, these are examples, whether it's NASA or Ford, and there's many, many of these examples. The problem is the Obama administration, remember, he wanted to transform America, which was a horrible statement. And what was the transformation? Into a service economy. That's one of the many elements of it. But that's not beneficial. That's why we have so many kids who feel that they are entitled. They're walking into college. They come out with a useless degree. They don't know how to work a job. They don't know what it is to work or to strive or to build up a career. We have failed them completely. And the answer is, it's harsh. It's kind of sad. We're going to have at least half a generation to a generation that are going to fail, but we need to take the next generation coming now, and we have to retrain them to learn how to actually work, what is their work ethic, and to give up this idea that they're entitled to anything. They have to earn it. And that means they have to learn how to do things, and they have to work hard at them, and it will take time. And we're not doing that right now.
A while back, 60 Minutes did a piece on young kids. Hold on, John. A while back, 60 Minutes did a piece on young kids. And they said, kids just entering the workforce, I should say. To me, that's young. They said that they were kind of surprised that they weren't getting, pats on the back for just showing up. Like those days were over, and because they're not prepared for it. And Liberty Twitter takes a tough stance there. She says the youth is weak, obese, lazy, young men, so sad, no grit.
True.
Perhaps a subsection of that, but not all. I got to defend my gender. We're not all that bad. John, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I do see, not all, but I do see a lot of students in my classes who are doing the right thing, where they're getting these skills. They'll spend extra time in class after they get their work done to quiz each other on the HVAC, different stuff with their, the air conditioners and different skills they have. Students go and they get their welding and they take it very seriously. And if they're serious on the welding, I've noticed they're very serious on the other skills, English, science, and they're getting their full education. Somehow it works together, which is what we want to see. So I do see a lot of students coming up that have a totally different mindset than they had years ago. Not all, but totally different mindset of the kids that came out of our school. And I see a lot of very positive things going because of these career academies. And we need nurses so badly. And I have so many students who are training to be nurses, and they're going to be very successful. And every single one of them is going to be hired. And I really believe that for everyone that becomes a nurse, people are only going to live because they have the skills to help people have better health. So we're doing getting a lot of the skills. We just need to do more of it. And I think it's moving in a positive direction, because I do agree that, people went to college in my age and people came out and they weren't always able to use their degree. And so now I think as teachers, we're kind of thinking, okay, what is more higher percentage of success for your future? What is jobs that are going to, and it always does work, but jobs that are going to be around, and what's the higher, and people are spending their time, which is good, in jobs in which they're getting hired right out of high school for like $60,000 a year. That was a miracle. I would have believed it if I saw that when I was first teaching.
Yeah. All right. And Joe, you were going to say, look like you were going to say something there, Joe.
No? I don't know. No.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you had something to say. I didn't want to miss you if you did. All right. We're going to keep on top of this story. There's a handful of stories that, I like to follow and not just do like a hit and run. So yeah, Mike, anytime you hear anything, well, any one of us really, when you hear something just about these grocery stores and where it's headed, make a note of it and we can bring it up on the show. Another thing that we're following is Don Lemon, and Don Lemon's situation, as far as he and the other reporter whose last name was Fort, was her last name Fort, and others were charged going into the church, all ICE related. However, Don Lemon made the news in another way, and that is Don Lemon has actually thought about running for president. And
okay, I didn't hear that. Okay.
It is actually pretty. It's a pretty funny. But he was appearing on a daytime talk show hosted by a woman by the name of Sherry. I'm gonna say it's Sherry Sherrod, and he says, well, he was asked, should he run for president, and he said, yes, why not? Why not? Why not? I'm asking that. I'm going to do it. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but why not? He said, if Trump could do it, if Donald Trump could be president, why couldn't I be president? I might do it, he said. And the host of the show is Sherry. Yeah. So what's the deal here? Is he should he run for president? Can we have like a Stephen A. Smith, Don Lemon primary on the Democratic side?
Oh my God, I wish.
I like Stephen A. Smith. I actually think he's actually pretty intelligent.
He's an idiot. Politically, he's an idiot.
This is him on the show. This was him on the show, the Sherry Sherrod show. I was looking for the name of her show. To be honest, I Googled it and it didn't come up. So I don't know if she may have got a big boost by him being on the show and saying this. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, right? And this is the latest news on him, and we happen to be following him for other aspects. So I thought I'd bring it up because like Mike, did anybody hear about this? This is the first I heard of it.
No, because Don Lemon isn't important. It's important that and he wasn't even important because that he got arrested. It's what he got arrested for, his criminality. Yeah. And the nature of the far left and the criminality they do. That's what was important and how that affects journalism. But Don Lemon, I hope he runs for president along with Stephen A. Smith so I can laugh as they lose incredibly. Not because Don Lemon's gay, not because they're black men, but because they are absolutely ridiculous in terms of their politics and their understanding of politics. That's domestic. Forget international. They have no clue what they're talking about. They're as bad as AOC when she shows up in Munich. They have no clue what they're talking about. They are embarrassments when it comes to politics, actual politics. And I hope that Democrats are dumb enough to give them money and give them the opportunity. But most likely it'll be like when Oprah was trying to run in 2020, in January of 2019. She ran for 1 month because she thought she could do it. She learned the reality. She embarrassed herself. Her background came up, and then she backed out as quickly as possible. Same reason why Michelle Obama won't run, and Democrats have no leadership, no plan, so they're stuck with Gavin Newsom. If they get lucky, they might have Josh Shapiro, and they're all going to lose. It'll be fun.
Right, so, Joe, you had something to say. This time, I'm pretty sure you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you think about Afroman running for president?
Also stupid.
Did he say he's running for president?
Joke.
I hope so. I like his.
He's a political joke.
His stances on civil liberties are pretty good. So I would like to see him.
No.
Well, what is his stance? Give us do you have an example? Give us an example of what his stance is.
Smoke weed. That's it.
He was in the news recently for making. He's a rap guy, right? He's making pop, right, or not pop, but like he's a musical guy, right? So he was making music, making fun of the police coming into his house and basically just like ransacking it, doing whatever they wanted there. Like I think someone ate out of his fridge, I think. So he made a music video about it. And like I think one of the cops sued him. I'm not 100% sure on that. Mm-hmm. And then he ended up winning the case. Mm-hmm.
Is it I mean, what do you think, Joe, about having non-political people like this, just throwing the hat into the ring? Like, Trump was non-political. You have Don Lemon thinking about it, Stephen A. Smith thinking about it.
Well, I like it. I like people just in general. Like, I don't care what their background is, whether it's political or business or military or police, whatever the background is. I'm for everybody throwing their hat in the ring and talking about ideas, like having different diverse backgrounds and just getting the message out there to everyone. And hopefully people start learning different things about not just the same, one person, like in politics here in Florida, especially, you're pretty much a lawyer or a business owner, and you're getting elected to office. So something other than those would be great.
Okay, how about you, John? What's the deal? Do you think this is just an attention-grabbing move for Don Lemon because he is kind of irrelevant, which is what Michael was saying, or is this something that he's might
I
really
think
sit
that
down?
I would have to hear more on his. I do know of him from CNN, and I think for both parties, I think what people are generally doing for 28 is that they know one word, affordability, and that's it. And I think that both parties need to get a good plan. And I think I'm going to be waiting. And I think that's going to be the thing that policies are going to be good policies. Somewhere to go is going to be the way to go. I don't know. Affordability is a hard one because the government can't just say lower prices. But if someone can figure out something that we could do with the affordability of housing, which defies the concept of supply and demand, because reducing the cost of housing, it's a tough feat. And the only way is to increase the supply, build more houses in order to, and then there are issues with the environment. So I think it's going to come down to people having policies and actual real things. But I see a lot of people just running on just saying affordability and just saying, I'm going to run and I'm going to get things more affordable and no plan whatsoever.
Specifically to people like Stephen A. Smith and Donald Trump before either Stephen A. Smith or Don Lemon. Are you okay with it? I mean, Carter was a peanut farmer, but then again, he was mayor before, in between. Are you okay with these people who have no political experience, jumping in, John? Or is it like somebody trying to fly a plane who's never flown a plane before?
I think it's great that you could jump in, but I think that like Joe said, throw your ideas into the marketplace, because celebrities run, and he's a celebrity. But the thing is, what is the meat behind it? So what is the substance to it? What plans do you have? Because just running as a celebrity, then it's then we get what we vote for, just a celebrity person. But what are the plans? What are your ideas? What are your solutions? And are they viable? And I think someone that comes up with really good solutions and really good ideas is really going to get the attention of the American people. I think too, it comes down to marketing your skills. I'd say the only thing to say for Trump is he seems to be the best marketer I've ever seen. He does market himself very, very well.
I mean,
and he has good plans, and he has good plans, and he's in touch with the public, and his sentiment actually reflects a majority of the public's point of views. You kind of are discounting him there, but of course, John, you're a Democrat, so I can understand why you would say that. But otherwise, the rest of America overwhelmingly agrees with him.
Yeah, I just don't see that. He hasn't sold it.
No, not overwhelmingly. I mean, he won the election, but I wouldn't say overwhelmingly.
Overwhelming
barely
majority. 60
majority,
depends on the issue. Depending on the issue, he has overwhelming support.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
You're saying he's over 50% approval?
Huh?
No,
you're saying he's over 50% approval.
Depending on the issue, yeah. That's what I said. Depending on the issue, yes.
I just don't see that right now. For 24,
you guys aren't watching the polls then. You're not reading the polls.
He was favored to win, and he won the election. And
why did he win the election? He won the election because he was reflecting the public. If we're talking about 2024, everything he was speaking about were things that the public were speaking about. And it's not the question of, I'm not going to question whether Don Lemon or Stephen A. Smith or Gavin Newsom should run. If they want to run, knock themselves out. If what's his name, Drugmine, wants to go and run, fantastic, knock himself out. I don't care about that part. They're American citizens. That is their right. Let them exercise it. Mm-hmm. The thing that makes me laugh at each and every single one of them, including Gavin Newsom, is that they have nothing to offer. They will say either celebrity status, or they will say that it's racism or sexism, or that they are going to fight against the other guy, but they actually offer nothing. And that's why I laugh, because that fails. What was Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Democrats in 2024? What were they offering? The other guy is bad. They spent 11 years now telling us Donald Trump is bad without mentioning any of the things he's actually done. Whether you like Trump or not, he has had successes. He does have a plan, and his plan often has been the correct one, and not 100%, but he often has been correct, and the consequences of his action have been very positive. On the other side of that, the policies we've heard from, the further left you go, the more quickly they fail, and we have negative consequences coming back, which is being reflected in many of the federal elections and often at statewide levels too.
However,
very local.
When you talk about the left, Liberty Twitcher does bring up a good point. She said most people under 30 want socialist ideas nowadays. They want government to coddle them, and I do think that's a problem. I think they don't
know any better.
Yeah, because they hear it sounds great. The rhetoric is great, right? It sounds like it's going to be all unicorns and rainbows, as Larry Sharp says. But Larry's got to come on the show. We quote him all the time. He should be here talking for himself.
But did Trump make a mistake when in 2016 he went to Daytona State and he said that in Daytona Beach on every corner he was going to have a big manufacturing facility and we're going to have 60,000. He did say that $60,000 a year.
I'd like to see the quote of that.
He came in 2016. That's what he promised. Now
it's only 16. I was still in New York.
But
I've never heard that. I've never heard that quote, nor has it been cited by any national news media that I've heard of. If you have an article on that, I would love to see it.
Yeah, let's see if we can find it. Can somebody explain Liberty's last one? I'm not getting this one, but it doesn't fail. That's how Newsom gets elected. Oh, socialism doesn't fail? That's how Newsom gets elected? Or the ideas don't fail?
A lot of the ideas do fail, but people, but the politicians still get elected because it's a great sale of free stuff. Everyone wants something free, and Democrats love to push off the consequences. So everything is the other guy's bad, and I will give you the free stuff. You just have to become my slave and vote for me forever. And they really, on that last part, they make it sound so nice. Don't worry, government's going to be there. We're going to have your back. We're going to help you, until they get elected. And then they turn around and they do things like Mamdani did, which is, oh, by the way, there is no question, no problem, too large or too small for government to manage. Government will micromanage your life. Every one of his policies is about bigger government. Everything that Gavin Newsom does is about having a bigger government. How much of the Palisades has been rebuilt? One building. How many tens of millions did he get for that? He's had over a year to do it. He doesn't do it. Why? Because Democrats don't want to solve anything. And there are bad Republicans, no question about that, but we're talking as a general body in the elections, you're going to see Republicans, because they have such a negative, the media is so against them and want to lead everyone to vote Democrat. Republicans, by and large, must have policies and must have better policies, because they're never going to have an advantage of just saying free stuff and know the media will not ask a hard question. That's what we tend to see over and over again. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so harsh about the Democrats about it, because they offer nothing. They have no plan. And that's why we get celebrities. You don't hear about celebrities, really. Donald Trump he's a celebrity. He was a businessman in the 70s and 80s, 90s, directly connected to every major politician in New York State and the federal government. He's been in politics decades.
Donald Trump had a much better profile when he was a real estate guy than he does as a politician. That's for sure. And he did run around New York with all the Democrats, and which is why I still feel that I just think he got into the race in 2016 on the Republican side because it was a wide open field. And if the Democrats had a wide open field and the Republicans had their anointed Hillary Clinton to win candidate, that he would have went in the Democratic side. I think that part is just all performance art. So Liberty Twitch says Mamdani's doing what he promised, and that that's what his voters wanted. And that's the truth. I mean, it is what it is. It's the way I feel about Trump. When people get mad about Trump, I'm like, well, he won the election, and so he's doing what he promised, which is kind of unusual for politicians. But Mamdani's going to try. We'll see what happens. I actually still think the jury's out on Donald Trump. I don't know if we could actually say he's been a good president yet, if his policies really worked. We still have I'm losing track, but we still have we still have like 18 months until
2.5.
Yeah, about 2 years. Oh, it's 2.5, not 18, 2.5. Yeah. So that's a long time, but all four of us know that that's a long time in politics, and a lot can change. We'll see. And a lot's riding on that too, because if he fails, the MAGA coalition goes away, and JD Vance is going to be in trouble. So I did, when I was flying a couple of weeks ago, and I came across something that I didn't know actually existed. I'm going to go on to another topic. I came across something that I didn't know actually existed, and that's that there are airports that don't use the TSA. And this is the list of them right there. There are 20 airports in the U.S., and they're not all small. We were flying from a small regional airport, number 10 on this list. Orlando Sanford International is not the Orlando airport that that most people envision. That's MCO for short. That's the Orlando airport that gets 55 to 60,000 visitors a year. Orlando Sanford International is way smaller. It has like 2 airlines. And we landed in a way small airline too. So it was regional to regional. But some of these on here, like San Fran's on here, and you'll see Kansas City on here. They're kind of some of the big ones. And just kind of curious as to why don't more of the bigger airports do this? I mean, we went through when the Democrats wouldn't fund DHS, and therefore TSA was not operational, and we had no problem. And why don't we just give this back to the states and let them actually, why don't we even we could either give it back. Why is the federal government involved? What are the options? Should we give it back to the states? Should we just let companies do it themselves? John, I'm going to start with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, I do know about this, and unless I'm very mistaken, private companies do the job as TSA, and they do it as TSA would do it. So you're doing a service, and you're doing it the same as the government would do, because you check the people entering the airline. And so it's just a matter of, I guess they would be paid, the companies would be paid by the government to do this service. That's how it would work. But these are private people, and they do the same job, and they're paid as a private company, and they're private instead of government. But the money behind it would come from the government, unless you just put it on the airlines, and then the airlines, you'd have to trust them to have security for the country. And so whether you trust them or not, and if they moved it to the private companies, they did it, everybody was safe, the private companies would do that. But this is private companies being hired to do this job. That's simple the way it works.
Hmm.
How about you, Michael? What do you think? Should we go this route with more? Is it?
No, hell no.
Oh God, come on,
hell no. Hell no, because look, it's a wonderful dream. I love the dream. It's not a reality. There are problems here. This is national security we're speaking about. Now, some of these secondary airports, and like Atlantic City, I'm kind of familiar with. I'm not familiar with all of them there. In many of these cities, you're looking at very different types of transportation. 747s aren't going through there. Super jumbo jets aren't going through there. You're looking at twin tier, not twin prop, but twin engine, smaller planes, 100 people at max, if not way smaller in many of these. And most of the transit and many of these, at least a couple of them that I've seen, are actually restricted to domestic only flights. So the risk that we see on places like O'Hare, New York, LAX, you're looking at a very different risk profile, and it is less likely, which then when you have private security, which may be, and depending on when you did this, depending on which of those locations, it might have actually been TSA workers that are just voluntarily continuing to work while Democrats have shut down the Homeland Security, and they're still working, but they're just doing it out of their own pocket, hoping to get paid back in the future. So you may have had TSA there and you didn't know it. So I'm not familiar, so I can't say for sure.
So these 20 came from a CNN article. That's the source, but it was new. If you just Google it, you'll see it anywhere. It's the same 20. That's pretty permanent. There weren't people that were just looking to work. Yeah, these are pretty permanent. So you know what? I have a question that based on what you just said, Mike, but I'm going to ask it of Joe, and that's why not have the safety rules decided by the government, but the private companies actually do the work? It's kind of like, Purdue Chicken has certain safety rules and guidelines from the USDA that laid out by the government what's going to be healthy and safe. Or, it's a question of whether it's healthy or not, but what's going to be, considered healthy and safe. And then they have to abide by those rules. So why can't we do the same thing with TSA?
That is better than what we have now with the TSA. So I would agree that is a step in the right direction. However, I would like to do what John suggested earlier and just put it up to the individual airlines, the individual airports, local governments, if they need to be to that point, let them decide it. Why is the federal government involved? Makes no sense. I mean, they can make suggestions, sure. Yeah, but that's it.
Yeah, we wonder for school too that private schools are being created in Florida by the dozens, and that's the law and stuff like that. But we wonder if they have the same safety safeguards for the students as public schools. We don't know. We're not in private schools, but it's the same kind of thing like here, where we wonder for the private schools that they're run privately. And do they have to have the drills that we have in the public schools? Is that required? Because it's a safety issue, just like getting on an airplane. And are the private schools, are they having safety? And I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn and get, they could be very safe. But we wonder because they're kind of on their own. So when you leave a public school, you go to a private school, what safety procedures do they have? And are they required to have any safety procedures? Same as the airline. Seems like with Florida, where privatizing the schools is similar to privatizing TSA.
Okay, so Michael,
no, it's not the same.
I want to ask you the same question I asked Joe, and I wanted to circle back on because you got me thinking about it. So why not have the government lay down the guidelines like the USDA, and food companies have to follow those guidelines? The government's not making the food; the private company is. So why not do that same model with the securing of all airports?
Yeah, because it's not the same thing. The risk profile isn't the same. And if we could ensure that, and the bigger problem here is the airports, not the airlines, and ensuring the safety protocols, and especially the risk of people being bribed, which is higher on an individual basis than on a government basis, ideally. Not perfect, maybe not even realistically, but ideally, it would be more difficult. You supposedly have more safeguards in the government that we can react to publicly. No one's hiding it behind a 4K annual report, and it's hidden as a byline in a different department because they don't want shareholders to see it. So that's one of my concerns. Theoretically, and I'm not saying perfectly, but currently we have more transparency with the government on this and have more immediacy in changing the policies to ensure more national security than if it were to be privatized, because it can be hidden from the public and denied to the public much more easily. And that's a problem when you're talking about national
Okay,
security.
well, I'm going to turn the screw on that. It goes back to what I started saying. I'm going to turn the screw on that. Are you suggesting then that food companies hide when they're breaking the rules?
It's not the same. It's nothing like food. This is
poisoning food,
like
making people sick. I'm playing, devil's advocate here. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but if people are getting sick because the company's not following the guidelines, I mean that is a problem. If you're putting out food that's going to poison people, I mean it's not a plane falling from the sky, but it is a problem still where people could get sick and very ill and possibly die. So,
and they do.
Yeah,
and they do.
They do. Yes, they do. And the government's, they do, but
they do. They do.
Yeah,
and again,
right.
and again, the government isn't there. One, the government doesn't compete. They can't grow anything, which the government's very bad at most things. It's good at defense, defending our nation. It's very good at taking taxes and moving money around. It's not good at a lot of other things.
Good at killing people. Don't forget that one.
Yeah. Well, that's part of defending. So that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Most of the time. Depends on who we're killing, not necessarily that we're killing people. I don't have a problem with that. Every country does. So, so the question here is, we can't use that as an example. One, the government can't do that job. And two, private companies do a pretty good job of that. The government is meant to be oversight on that. But it's not one of the requirements of government. The government is there to do what individuals cannot do for themselves in a uniform manner. The public, private businesses, cannot safeguard the national security. That's why every state doesn't have an army. We have the army, not 50 different individual armies. It's because that is something that the government does best. National defense is something that the government does best. You want to talk? You're telling me you have an airport in the middle of Sioux City and Iowa, and no planes go to any, no non-domestic citizens are flying on that plane? Fantastic. I don't care. Use whatever rule set you want. But if you're talking about the risk from an international threat, basically airports are our borders. That is national security. Border security is a national requirement.
Okay, Joe, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to say a couple things. I forgot what they were, but I did want to say a couple things. Let's see.
You look like you're going to say.
Well, I would actually go back to what John was saying earlier regarding private schools and public schools and having safety for that, with safety standards, like what is it? And I know when we hear about these school shootings, I think it's almost always a public school. I don't think it's I don't really hear about private schools having that issue. So whatever they're doing, maybe they should be the model rather than the public schools model. I know that's going back a half second.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It looked like you were going to say something. I don't know if this helps about high risk when the notion of high risk at the airports came up.
Yeah, so for airports, I mean, you just listed 20 of them, right? Has any terrorism gone through that? I mean, I'm going through the Sanford Airport here in a month, and I hope nothing's going to happen. But I certainly look like a guy that will fly a plane into a building, but I'm not going to. So I'm just, it's just I don't hear about any of these TSA issues going on, other than like in the memes. It's the phrase like it's not gay, it's TSA. They're just like they're molesting people basically at the airport.
That happens to me every time.
Yeah. I'm not very good.
They're always very nice
about
it.
Me, but whatever.
Every time. So Liberty Twitch checks in. Once you create a federal agency, it's pretty much impossible to stop it. We're stuck with the TSA. True. That is so true. And that's where Mike, I was kind of alluding to the Republicans not really doing anything different than Democrats, because they don't. It's not like these agencies ever go away under Republicans. They might get cut in the margins and stuff, but they never really go away. I trust the airlines more than the TSA. Yeah, all righty. Liberty goes on to say private schools can be trusted to do a better job at everything than public schools. That sounds like a show right there. We got to get John. We'll get you on for that. Get you on some of the folks running for the board of education around here, or up in New York, of course, or anywhere in the country. The notion that government can operate anything better is just silly. And let's see, we have plenty of government mandated safeguards in food, pharmaceuticals, etc. We do. Let's see. That doesn't mean we need government operating those companies. Yeah, that's what I was kind of saying. I do understand, Michael, what you were saying. It does kind of. It isn't exactly. Yes. I mean, Liberty Twitcher probably is thinking like me, and we're not wrong in the sense that you can poison somebody, sure, but there is a difference between the two that you pointed out that made sense to me. In that example, but I still would like to see less TSA, and there are some, I would like to see it turn back. I would like to see it turn back to the companies doing it on their own with certain standards set up by the government to ensure safety. So one more thing here, believe it or not, there is an incentive for businesses to keep their customers alive.
Right? Yes.
I think so. So what are you going to say, Joe?
No, so what's great about the comments there were that those are private comments, not government. Had government been commenting, it would be terrible. So I think people from all around, not government people, but everyone else should comment and like and share this right here, because this is a non-government program. So I want everyone to like, comment, and share right now, all the private citizens out there.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And the audience loves that comment. Great. Love it. Yep. Awesome stuff. All right. So, we got one more issue we're going to tackle here this evening, and that is eliminating property taxes. Before the show started, John, you were talking about that. So where does the state, I'm sorry, let me just say, this is the state of Florida. The idea of eliminating property taxes may or may not be on the ballot. What's the latest news on that, John? You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, they don't have a special session for it, and the original session ended. Get the time right, about March 15th. So it's 2 months long. They ended March 15th, and they didn't complete a budget. The second year in a row. Reasons maybe for it, maybe blame, maybe no blame, but it seems like in this day and age, tough to get a budget for some reason. So they didn't have a budget completed, and that's the one job they have to do is complete the budget. And so they didn't, so they do have to come back to complete the budget. And the governor he moved it from April 20th to April 28th to do redistricting. Redistricting is normally done every 10 years, but now it's wanted to be. And the problem I have is the way you're supposed to do it legally is you have the census numbers and you do it with the census numbers. And that was done 5-6 years ago. And now we would do it again. And there's a question on what numbers are we going to use? And nobody's going to be happy if you don't use the census numbers because no one's going to trust them. And so we are supposed to, on April 28th, have redistricting as a special session, and you can only do what's ever supposed to be done. It's vaccine mandates, it's AI, and it's redistricting. You can't do other issues. That's illegal. So you can only do during a special session whatever the governor says is the issues. That's the law of the state of Florida. And
you're saying eliminating property taxes? You're saying eliminating property?
Yeah. Property taxes has not had a special session. It's talked about having a special session, but there's no bill that's been decided on that would have to go before the voters because the legislature can't decide it on their own. They can pass a bill and then they send it to the voters, and the voters have to pass it 60% or better. That's the law. But they don't have a bill. They don't have a plan. And there's not much of a plan with who's going to pick up your garbage if you can't afford to have anyone pick up your garbage. So what would you do? Bury it in the backyard? So I don't think it would come to that. But whatever services you're going to have to do that are hard to do for a community, like pick up garbage, if you don't have that done anymore, it's a disaster. So other taxes somewhere or someone else is going to have to pay for picking up your garbage if your property taxes aren't paying for that. So other taxes would have to make up for this, because who is going to pay for it? It doesn't come out of nowhere.
Okay, so you're saying no special session. And there was going to be one at one time, so that's really surprising and upsetting.
Yeah,
that
they talked about it. It may happen, but there's no special session so far.
No special session. So, what about the idea? Joe and Mike, I'm going to ask you both. I'm going to ask Joe first. What about the idea of how you fund it? That's basically what John was saying. Like, who's going to pick up your garbage?
Okay.
So, who's going to pick up the garbage, Joe?
Yeah. So. I'm a libertarian, so where I would go first is cut spending for government. So that's one way to fund it. The other way is like how else do we fund it? Like for garbage, for example, in my city of Ormond Beach, the garbage pickup fee is actually on the utility bill. Like we pay our water, garbage, recycling, water. I think there's one more thing on there. I forget what else is on there. But we pay those on a utility bill. So what covers so I think so let's back up a little bit here. The proposals that are out there don't eliminate school property tax at all, which is the plurality of the taxes on property. The ones I saw also don't cut police funding, which is the line item for some property taxes here. What else? So that's a large part of it, and it's only for homesteaded properties. So what that is in Florida is you are a primary resident. It is your primary home, right? So the property taxes for renters, for small businesses, farms, etc., like any non-homesteaded property, any non-primary home property, the prices, the property tax is not going to go. Like the rest of it is not going to go away. So in Ormond Beach, the way we do our property taxes, or the budget, I should say, is we come up with the total dollar amount, and then the staff goes to the city commission, and they say this is the dollar amount. This equals this millage rate, and then the city commission will deliberate on that, and they'll set a millage rate to get X amount of dollars. So they could just do that, basically, effectively raise the taxes on non-homesteaded property owners, and as it gets reduced from the primary home owners. But if you look at the budget just 5-6 years ago, that would be the difference right there in my home county of Ormond Beach. It's just like we were going back to the budget from like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's literally that, like we're going back to COVID days, what the budget was there. So again, I would cut spending. But with all that being said, 60% to pass it, right? And everyone shares these concerns, like, oh, how are we going to pay for schools? How are we going to pay for police? Even though those are literally not going to be impacted. So people still think that. They don't read what the fine print, right? So there's no way it gets 60%, so it's not going to pass anyway. That's probably why it's not going to be on the ballot.
All right, Mike, is this a good idea, limiting property taxes in Florida? And how would you pay for it if you were in?
One, yes, we want to eliminate property taxes. Absolutely.
And it came to be.
It's a good idea because I bought the property. I paid for the property. Why am I paying tax on it? And we should, in general, lower the property taxes in general of individuals. Absolutely. I agree with that. The question is, well, how are we going to afford the sanitation? Sanitation used to be private businesses, like fire departments were private businesses. And it was only government decided to absorb that and make it a government business, government function paid for by the government, but people used to pay for it themselves. And who's going to, well, what if I don't want to pay for that? Take the garbage out yourself. Go and do it. People used to do that. That's not impossible. We can do that. We don't need government for that. We just have gotten used to government doing that for us, but we don't need it. And let's give up that's just a tiny luxury that we give up if we had to. But realistically, we don't. Because Joe's right. the other part of the answer is, well, cut spending. And if we cut spending, and every single local, state, federal government has at least 10% that they can cut, there's massive waste in every single one of the governments. We can easily trim 10% off the fat, and we can privatize many of the businesses. I haven't read the actual bill, so I don't know how it's affecting each one.
Yeah, they don't have them settled on one yet.
Right. So he's mentioned sanitation. So I'm focusing on that. Privatize the sanitation, reduce the bills, and there is no government union anymore, which is one of the reasons why it's more expensive than it needs to be. Get rid of that, and bang, the problem's not going to be there anymore. If we, the taxpayer, aren't paying for that union premium retirement plan, guess what? The cost of sanitation will decrease dramatically just because of competition alone. There's no reason we should have the property taxes. And absolutely saying that, well, these services will not be able to be there is that's just an excuse that establishment and big government use to fearmonger people into not reducing these things. That's the way I feel about that every single time.
Okay. All right, Joe.
Michael is more libertarian than I am on this issue. How about that?
Woohoo!
I don't think it's a libertarian issue.
You still have to do something with your garbage.
Sure. Drop it off. Get a private business.
Thinking that you're going to all of a sudden save this amount of money and it's going to be an overall savings and you don't have to pay for anything at all. It's like saying, though, that you can cut off your light bill and you can save a few $100s a month.
No.
But you're probably going to hurt yourself in your house and not have much of a life.
No, you're wrong, John. You're wrong. That isn't that's not a fair equivalence or example. And two, yes, I will save money. Right now, sanitation is run by government. Government overpays for everything. And we're paying for unions, which drive up the cost of everything, making it also more expensive. You get rid of the sanitation department and you allow private businesses to run sanitation again because they used to do it. And the competition of those sanitation will be less expensive than the government unionized sanitation. Absolutely. Every single time we do this, it is always correct. So my cost will go from, rather than paying the government, and by the way, government uses the money as a slush fund every time it gets it, and it will redirect it. So rather than having it go into the slush fund and the general fund of the government, I individually am making the payment to a private business. And if I do not wish to do that, I, the private citizen, am responsible for taking my garbage and dumping it, which people have done for hundreds of years. It is absolutely more cost effective. It is absolutely doable, and we could do it within a month. Absolutely.
And that's the essence of the argument right there between the discussion you two are having right now, John and Mike. That's what goes down here, because I've had quite a few politicians on, and you hear both of those viewpoints. So that's the major discussion right there. How do you pay for things? And there are answers to that.
And there are another problem is too that garbage, maybe you could do that privately, but what about having a commission and having them, they could be just work for free. I don't know who you'd get, but they would have to decide things, the city commissions, we have that. And they would decide things like zone changing for stuff and things of that nature. So how do you get that resolved in a private city? Where I
got a great answer for that. Get rid of the commissions. We have too many people working in government as is. I guarantee you can get rid of a quarter of the government and it will still run exactly the same as it runs right now. It's not our cities, our states are not run efficiently. They are inefficient, bureaucratic mess.
Okay. But you're missing.
Hold on, everybody. Wait. Just so Mike is sure. Mike is clear. In Florida, the city commission is the government. I think what John was referring to would be called like the city council, like the New York City Council, John's referring to the actual politicians that get elected
Well,
to
not only
office.
politicians, but what about all the running the libraries? They would have to be privatized. A lot of stuff would have to be privatized that we don't have privatized right now. Are we able to do that? Then I guess you would need it, but you would have to privatize the running of the ballparks, and you could. The Chicago White Sox paid part of my salary in 1987. They're a private company. They paid Daytona Beach to pay part of my salary. But you have a lot of city workers do an awful lot of stuff, and it would all have to be privatized. Maybe it could. Well, but that would be interesting.
It can easily be done. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Because John just walked me into a great plug for this book I actually wrote about what libraries should do. In Great Tax Revolt happened in California in 1976. It's 1978. Sorry about that. 57% cut in property taxes. And when I was a librarian at Long Island University in downtown Brooklyn, I had to write. And my book is literally about what the libraries in California did. And John just said, who's going to run the libraries or how they're going to run? I got the answer right here. So everybody pick up that book and read it and know the answer. But I honestly, what they did, they cut staff, they pre-planned budgets for different types of tax revenue, depending on whether or not it was going to pass. They would they closed far more often than they used to be, and eventually they got by. It wasn't easy for them, but they did find a way by less services and things like that. But they found a way to survive, and a few more bake sales and things like that, and you'll be fine. Let's see. Can't buy the book. It's out of stock. Oh no! Really? That's because it's selling so much. My book can't be bought. It's out of stock. That's because people are buying it. It's flying off the shelves. This is like 2018. It came out. So that's why I got to get another one out there. One of these days I will. Trust me. And that'll be about. I'm writing a book about a rock star. I wrote it, but I'm rewriting it. So.
Joe,
time to go.
Oh, okay. You got to go. Your battery's running out. All right.
I got a meeting soon.
Oh, okay. All righty. So, wow, the work never ends for you. I'm going to bed like within 30 minutes of this show ending. I can tell you that. So, does anybody have any last words? We could wrap it up right here. That was my last topic of the evening was the property taxes.
Vote Libertarian.
All right.
We'll see what happens with property taxes. It'll be interesting. But I get a feeling it looks like nothing will be done. Could be surprised.
Yeah. I have a feeling.
I'd like to see people vote for the most efficient, effective person, period. That's my way of looking at it.
How about you, John? Is it vote Democrat or is it vote most efficient and effective? Or maybe the Democrat is the most efficient and effective.
The Libertarian.
Yeah, it's a big change. But then again, the way they're going to vote it is some people are going to get angry because their taxes will be cut. Other people will have to still pay the taxes. So you're going to kind of have a little bit of that because there's going to be a big fight over who would still pay taxes and who wouldn't. Yeah, that would be kind of because it's not all across the board, possibly, and no bills have been written yet that have been ready to present to the public. So we can't even look at a bill and say judge it because they have nothing. That's the weird part about it too, because they're running special sessions with absolutely no bills to do anything, which is really odd. So Joe and I could have been there. Either one of us could have been there. And we could have been sitting there because some people said, wait a minute, we're going to sit there next week. We have no bills and we're going to be looking at each other because we can't do any work because we have no bills to debate. So we're just going to be collecting our salaries.
Wait a minute. So that means they should cancel the meeting and refund the cost that day back to the public since they can't do their job.
Correct.
Since there's no job to be done, they shouldn't get paid for that day.
Yes, I think they would because they have other jobs which they're missing because they have to be at the Capitol and the governor is calling them in. It's not that.
So I got no problem.
Look, you know what? They got want to be there. So the Democrats hardly want to go in these issues at all.
Yeah, I see. I hear what you're saying. All right, Joe.
The meeting.
Bye-bye.
That man
Just,
never stops.
you know what?
All right.
Just don't have the meeting. That's all. Easy enough.
Yeah.
Tell him you got. I'll see you later, Joe. All right, folks. So that'll be a wrap. It's always a fantastic conversation. I love it. This is my 75th show. 75th show. And I like to celebrate the monumental show that the ones the 10th, the 25th, the 50th, the 75th, 100th. Little toast to 75 shows in the book, coming along great. Thanks to you guys, I really appreciate it, and I really do try to get your banners up there so people might get your show name across the screen and John, what you're doing. So there's a benefit, of you guys getting the word out and what you are involved in as well when you come on the show. So thanks for being here, and everybody out there, thanks for tuning in. We are absolutely worldwide, and that is great. And all the comments this evening were fantastic. And no matter where you're tuning in, cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yep.
By the way, this is Moscato that I have.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where you are in the world watching the show, I don't know what time it is in your neck of the woods, but no matter the time, I hope you had a good time. This time, until next time, we will see you later.